the playoffs. What a season he's had. Brown goes inside. Oh, what a slam from the Panthers have a 3rd and 10. Here comes pressure. So the ball is out in the end zone. And it's Wheeler finds Vaughn from the logo.
Edelman in motion. Edelman takes the swing pass. Edelman's going to throw. He's knocking wide open. Amendola. Touchdown.
All right, everyone, welcome back. This is our last regular season week of the NFL. I cannot believe it. It's gone by super quickly. So this is week 18. Last week, kind of a disaster for me. I went 10-5. My brother went 14-2, and my dad went 13-3. So on the season now, I'm actually in last place. I am 175-80 on the season. My brother has passed me into second place. He's 177-78 on the year. My dad's still in first place with 187-68 on the season. So we will be continuing these through the playoffs, of course, because that's the most important time. So I still have a little bit of a chance to catch up, at least in second place, but I got to make this week count. And this is a tricky week. I always say week 1 is the hardest week to predict. And then I think week 18 is one of the harder weeks because you have a lot of teams that are kind of set for the playoffs and a lot of teams that are tanking. So it's hard to know who's going to be playing and everything and how much they'll be playing. First game, because we are done with Thursday Night Football, we have our Saturday game. We have Browns at Ravens, and I'm picking the Ravens to win this one. The starters will at least be playing for some of the game, and the Browns are clearly tanking, so the Ravens should win this. Even if the Ravens only play their backups, I still think they win this game, but I think we will see some action from the starters. Pretty straightforward. Next up, we have a huge game. Last week, the Bengals and Broncos played, and I was the only one to pick the Broncos, and I was so close to being correct, but I was not. This week, we have the Bengals at the Steelers. It's do or die for the Bengals. They still need some other magical things to happen. They have to win this game, and I'm going to pick the Bengals to win on the road against the Steelers. They've just been so hot. I was kind of burned picking against them last week. I don't want to do that this week. I think the Steelers are kind of a similar team to the Broncos. They can score some points. I think their offense is actually a little worse than the Broncos. Their defense might be a little better than the Broncos, but not much. These past few weeks when they've been playing some good offenses, their defense has been shredded. So actually the Broncos defense might be playing a little better than theirs at this point, honestly. So I'm going to go with the Bengals for this one. I don't think playing on the road really matters to them. And I'm going to not bet against Joe Burrow for the foreseeable future. I really wasn't to begin with. I was just betting against the Bengals defense, but they did enough to win that game. So next up we have the Giants at the Eagles. Last week I was watching a video. It was Peyton Manning highlights, and he was scoring like 3-4 touchdowns. He even ran one in. And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm not watching Peyton Manning highlights. I'm watching Drew Lock lead the Giants to a victory over the Colts, which I was very, very confused about because the Giants just lost their number 1 pick in the draft to the Patriots. So I don't feel bad about it one bit because of our history that we share. They're going up against the Eagles. The Eagles will not be playing any starters, which I kind of understand. I would love to see Saquon Barkley break the record against his former team, and I think I don't know. It's really good that none of the starters are gonna risk being injured, but I don't think Saquon really has a say in the decision. So I don't know. I'm not a GM, but anyway, I'm going with the Eagles to win this one. I don't think the Giants are going to pull out a Peyton Manning primetime victory again. Even though it's going to be the Eagles' backups playing, Kenny Pickett is still pretty decent, and I think the Eagles team can win at home, with or without the starters, against the Giants. Next up, we have the Saints at the Buccaneers. This should be an easy one. Buccaneers should roll with the win here. The Saints are also tanking, so should be an easy win for the Bucs. Moving on, we have the Panthers at the Falcons. Could be a fun game. The Falcons have looked very competent with Michael Penix Jr. He hasn't been turning the ball over, really, so that's pretty good. He seems to be managing the game pretty well. He's made some nice throws. I'm going to pick the Falcons to win this one at home. Panthers show flashes of hope here and there, but the Falcons are a more complete team, and unfortunately for them, they are probably not going to make the playoffs because the Buccaneers play the Saints. And they kind of blew it when they blew that game last week against Washington. But I still think they do what they can to do their part and win against the Panthers. Next up, we have Washington at the Cowboys. This game right here is actually a rematch of a really good divisional game that happened earlier in the year. If you remember, the Cowboys won, but Terry McLaurin had like a 80-yard touchdown on the last play of the game, and it was a crazy ending. But the Cowboys won, and I'm sure Washington might want to get a little revenge heading into the playoffs. Jaden Daniels has had a lot of really good, like, fourth quarter / overtime comeback wins, and I think Washington does win this one. They're definitely more of a complete team. Cowboys kind of showed their true colors last week against the Eagles, and they don't really have anything to play for, so Washington should probably take this one. Next up, we have the Bears at the Packers. Bears are another team. They've kind of packed it in for the year. I did pick the Packers last week to beat the Vikings. I really believed in them, and they let me down, but that's obviously not going to happen this week against the Bears in Green Bay, so Green Bay wins this one. Next up, we have Jaguars at the Colts. The Colts, I don't know what that was. They really screwed up my parlay there. But the Colts, I'm still going to pick them to win because they're playing the Jaguars, but that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen, so they should be ashamed of themselves. Next up, we have the Bills at the Patriots. The last time we played them, which was like 2 weeks ago, we put up a pretty good fight. But now, the starters on the Bills won't even be playing the entire game. They will play a little bit, but not the entire game. And then after that, it'll be Trubisky coming in, I believe. Honestly, the Patriots should just lose this game and secure the number 1 seed at this point. And I think they will. We're playing at home, but the Bills' backups probably won't be that bad. Trubisky does have game experience, and even though we put up a fight, we struggle to score points. And our defense is not really playing all that great either. So I'm still going to go with the Bills to win this one in New England. And hopefully we do lose and get that number 1 pick. We can use it for leverage, end up with Travis Hunter eventually, and there you have it. On to the future. Next up, we have the Texans at the Titans. The Texans just look abysmal. But lucky for them, they're already in the playoffs. I'm not sure if they really want to be in the playoffs anymore, but they're in the playoffs. They're playing against the Titans, which is kind of like a bye week. So I think they'll win this game. It might be a really low-scoring, ugly game, but they should still win this one and at least hopefully give them a little fuel. Next up, we have the Chiefs at the Broncos, but it will not be the Travis Kelce Chiefs. It will not be the Mahomes Chiefs. It will not be the Taylor Swift Chiefs. It will be the Carson Wentz Chiefs, going up against the Broncos, who really should have beaten them earlier in the year. But there was a blocked field goal or something that happened, and the Chiefs pulled out a little bit of that black magic and won the game. Now, the Chiefs are in a position where they can rest their starters, and for 2 weeks actually, because they have the first round bye. And they can kind of choose who makes the playoffs. I think the Chiefs kind of want the Broncos to win because they'd probably rather play them, if it comes to it, than allow Joe Burrow into the playoffs. Joe Burrow is, I believe, the only active quarterback who's actually beaten the Chiefs in the playoffs. So unless Tom Brady comes out of retirement again, they can keep the Bengals out of the playoffs. That'll definitely put them at ease, I believe. So I'm picking the Broncos to win this one. Whether they earn it fair and square or the Chiefs let them off the hook, we'll see what happens, but I think the Broncos win this one. Unfortunately, I would love to see the Bengals make the playoffs. I would love it. It would make me so happy. But I don't think it's going to happen. Next up, we have the Dolphins at the Jets. Now, what I would hate even more is if the Broncos lost and the Bengals didn't make the playoffs and the Dolphins won. I do not want to see the Dolphins in the playoffs. I don't think Dolphins fans want to see them in the playoffs. I actually have the Dolphins losing this game. I think everybody loses who has to watch this game, but you have the Jets who are just a dumpster fire inside of Chernobyl. And you have the Dolphins who can't play in cold weather, and Tua's not playing at all because he's injured. So I'm going to go with the Jets in this one. They're playing in the cold. I think the fish freeze a little too much in this one, and the Jets beat them. I think it's going to be like a 15-9 type of game, and I think the Jets win. And I'm really hoping they win for the first time in my life because I don't want any chance of the Dolphins making the playoffs. I know things have to happen for them to even be in that position, but I don't want those things to happen. So we're going to go with the Jets here. Next up, we have the 49ers at the Cardinals. Brock Purdy is not playing. Josh Dobbs is playing in place of him, and Dobbs is not bad. He's shown some flashes, but they're playing in Arizona. The Cardinals are still a healthier team, so I'm going to go with the Cardinals to win this one. It's really meaningless for either team. It is a divisional game, but it's still meaningless. I think the Cardinals win this one. They're just healthier, and that's what it comes down to in this one, I think. Next up, we have the Seahawks at the Rams. I believe the Rams are resting their starters. They certainly should. They're kind of older, so let Cooper Kupp, let Stafford catch a break. Puka's not old, but he's dealt with injuries, so just let him rest up. And I think the Seahawks end up winning this one with their starters, who are still competent. Unfortunately for them, they will not be in the playoffs again this year, but I think the Seahawks still win this one. Next up, we have the Chargers at the Raiders. Chargers, we really don't need to say much about this game either. The Chargers should just kind of steamroll this one. I'm not sure how much of the starters will be playing, how much it will affect the seeding in the playoffs, but the Chargers should really win this one. Last but certainly not least, we have the Minnesota Vikings, 14-2, going up against the Detroit Lions, 14-2. They're playing in Detroit. The last time these two teams played, it was a close game. The Lions won, and I picked the Lions to win. And now I see a lot of people picking the Vikings to win, which I could definitely see happening. The Lions are dealing with so many injuries, and they really, really need this bye week, probably more than the Vikings do. And I'm going with the Lions to win this one. I think they have the better coach. They have a better running back. Quarterback is debatable, but honestly, Jared Goff has been playing quarterback better for longer than Darnold has, although I'm very impressed with Darnold, not to knock him. He's playing very well, and I'm happy for him, and I don't think it's a fluke type thing. But I'm going with the Lions to win this one. I think the Lions win. I think it's a close game, but I think they win this game. So I want to hear your predictions, especially on that last game. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and we'll see you next time.